Hello everybody, welcome to this video. This is the video for Module 32 for Business, Math, and Calculators. In this module, we are going to be talking about how to calculate gross pay. There are lots of different ways that gross pay can be calculated depending on the situation or the job or different things like that. And so we're going to go through quite a few examples in this video to illustrate the different ways that you might potentially get paid depending on the type of work that you do or the company that you work for. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we will go ahead and work on the examples. Alrighty, so we're calculating gross pay. So let's go ahead and just jump right to the first sample problem. And in our first problem, we have a situation where Mike works at a local fast food restaurant and earns $12.20 per hour. Last week he worked a total of 32 hours. We want to figure out what his gross pay is for the week. So this problem is an example of someone who works in a job where you get paid an hourly wage. To calculate gross pay, it's fairly simple. What you're going to do is you are going to multiply the hourly rate times the number of hours that are worked. So it's basically a straight multiplication problem. So in this situation, we're going to take the $12.20, which is what Mike makes per hour, multiplied by the 32 hours, and we end up with a value or an amount of $390.40. And that's it. There you go. That's the gross pay for the week. So again, when it's an hourly wage type of situation, you simply multiply hourly wage times number of hours, and you got your final answer. All right, now one twist to the hourly pay kind of situation is if you have a situation where somebody is working overtime. And in general, overtime is determined by 40 hours of work. If you work a 40-hour work week, that's considered normal regular time, but anything that you work over the 40 hours, that's considered overtime. Now it can be a little bit different from one company to the next. Some companies, what they will do is they'll calculate overtime by once you get to 40, anything over that is the overtime. Some do it on a daily basis, that if you work 8 hours and then you work, say 10 hours the next day, you might get 8 hours of regular pay and 2 hours of overtime. And they do it kind of on a day-by-day basis based on an 8-hour workday. It just kind of depends on the situation. For our example here, what we've got is a situation where we're going to look at just 40 hours as being the amount for regular time, and anything over that is the overtime. So to calculate this, the one thing we do need to remember though is that typically overtime is paid at time and a half. What that means is if you take your hourly wage and you figure out what half of that is, and then add that on to the hourly wage, that's how much you actually get paid for overtime. So you're actually making more money during those overtime hours. So let's look at how to calculate the situation. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to focus on the regular hours. So that's the 40 hours that Mike worked. So again, we just take the normal hourly wage, the $12.20 per hour times 40 hours, and that gets us an answer of $488. Now we have to calculate the overtime portion of that. So again, he gets paid time and a half. So notice that the hourly wage is now $18.30. Now we got $18.30 by doing half of $12.20, which is $6.10. We add the $6.10 to the $12.20 to get the $18.30. All right. So now what we do is we take that overtime hourly wage, multiply that by the remaining 8 hours that he worked beyond the 40. And so that's $146.40. So that's how much he earned in overtime. To get the final calculation for the total gross pay for the week, we add the regular pay plus the overtime pay to get a total of $634.40. And that's the answer that we're looking for. So you got to be a little careful when it comes to overtime because there's two different parts to the calculation. There's the regular time that you have to calculate, and then there's the overtime that you have to calculate. And then you add those together to get the total. And also be careful when it comes to figuring out what the hourly rate is for time and a half. So there you go. All right, let's shift gears now. We're going to talk about a different situation in terms of how you might get paid, depending on, again, your situation. In this example, Renee is a salesperson at a car dealership. She earns her pay on a commission basis. So she earns a 5% straight commission on all sales. During the month of July, she accumulated $121,100 in sales. We want to figure out what the gross pay is. So again, with a commission, what you're basically doing is it's a situation where based on how much you sell of whatever, product, in this case, the person selling cars, you get a percentage of that amount as your pay. All right, so in this case, it has to be 5%. So to calculate gross pay, we're going to do, again, multiplication. This time, though, we're going to figure out what 5% of 121,100 is. So remember, always convert percents to a decimal. So 5% is 0.05. We're going to take that times how much she sold and simply do the multiplication. And so we end up with a gross pay of $6,055. So that's how much gross pay Renee earned based on a 5% straight commission. And there you go. Okay, so with commission, multiply the percentage times the sales to figure out the gross pay. Now, another situation with commission type situations is sometimes companies will pay a person in advance. To kind of help with, living situations. It's hard to get paid once a month or hard to get paid, just when you make sales and that kind of stuff because you're not guaranteed a routine amount. And so sometimes companies will give you essentially an advance on your paycheck, and that's called a draw. So in this situation, we've got Renee again working at the car dealership, again 5% straight commission. She accumulated $105,000 in sales, but she took a $1,500 draw at the beginning of the month. So what we want to figure out is, well, how much did she actually then get paid at the end of the month based on her sales? Again, it's fairly straightforward. What we're going to first do is we're going to calculate what the gross pay would be by multiplying the percent written as a decimal times the amount of sales that she had, so 0.05 times 105,000. So for the month, she earned $5,250. Now what we want to, again, figure out is how much did she actually get gross pay at the end, because she took that draw, because she got paid $1,500 in advance. You have to subtract that off. And so what she's actually going to get at the end of the month is the $3,750. And again, that's the gross pay that remained after the draw that she took. Okay. So just a kind of a weird situation that you might run into if you take an advance based on your number of sales and your commission kind of situation. So there you go. All right, another situation that you might run into, depending on the type of work that you're doing, is sometimes people will get paid based on their amount of production. So rather than number of hours or or getting a percentage of those kinds of things, if you're working in a job where you are producing some sort of product, you might get paid a rate based on how many of those items that you're able to produce. So if you can produce more items, you're going to get more pay. If you produce less items, you're going to get less pay. So in this situation, this factory pays its workers $1.05 per part. Okay, so every part that they are able to push down the line, that they're able to produce, they get $1.05. So during a week, let's say that Jen produced 545 parts during that week. We want to figure out the gross pay. Again, fairly simple in terms of what you need to do. We got to multiply. We're going to take the rate, which is the $1.05 per part, times the number of parts that were produced. So we simply multiply those things together. And so the gross pay for the week is $5,072.25. And that's the answer that we're looking for. That is her gross pay for the week. All right, here's another example. This time, we're still looking at the situation where we're producing parts and getting paid on a per part or units produced kind of basis. The difference, though, is this company uses what's called a differential pay schedule. And so it's based on the number of parts that are produced, but depending on the number that are made by the worker, the amount that they get per part increases as the number of parts increases. So in the table here, what we've got is a situation where if the employee makes 50 parts, anywhere between 1 and 50 parts, they get 75 cents per part. When they get into the range of 51 to 150, then they get paid 85 cents per part. When they get to the 151 to 300, it's $1.02 per part. And then when they're up in the over 300 range, they're getting paid $1.40 per part. So it's giving you that incentive to produce more, because when you get to those higher numbers of parts produced, you get more pay. Now, to calculate what the gross pay is, what we have to do this is you have to do this based on the different stages in terms of what you're getting paid. So the first thing we got to do is look at the fact that Greg produced 412 parts. So for the first 50 parts, okay, he got paid 75 cents per part. So that gets you a total of $37.50. Again, we just multiply the rate times the number of parts to get that amount. Now, the next 100 parts, so from the 51 to 150, he's getting paid 85 cents per part. So we multiply 85 cents times 100, so that's $85 for that next segment of parts produced. So far, that's up to 150 total parts. So again, we have to get up to 412. So now we go to the next one. For the next 150 parts, from 151 to 300, he's getting paid $1.02 per part. So we multiply $1.02 times 150 to get the 153. And we're up to 300 parts that are produced. So now we get to that over 300 range. In the over 300 range, he produced 112 parts. So that gets us our total. If you add up the number of parts, that gets us our 412. For those 112 parts, he was getting paid $1.40 per part. We multiply the rate times the number of parts, we get 156.80. And there you go. That kind of breaks it down how much is getting paid for each grouping or each segment of the number of parts. To get the gross pay, then we have one final step. We have to add up all of these increments. So we're simply going to add up all those values. And so we get a total of $432.30. And that is the gross pay. That's the amount that that Greg earned for this particular week. So the differential pay schedule, a little bit trickier because there's steps that you have to calculate, but there's definitely benefits to having a schedule like this, in the sense that as an employee, the more parts you make, the more money you make per part, and so it definitely can add up to be more productive over the course of the week. And there we go. All right, so we took a look at several ways that you can get paid and how to calculate the gross pay associated with that. We looked at hourly situations where you're getting paid regular time and then potentially overtime. We looked at a commission situation where you're getting paid a percentage of the amount of sales that you have. And then we looked at the situation where you're getting paid on a per part or per unit that you produce kind of situation. There are other situations and other kind of variations on these that you might run into. When you look at the notes and look at the other examples that are found in the work that you're doing as you read the textbook and work on homeworks and those kinds of things, there are a few other examples, like salary or getting a commission plus a salary or different things like that. So we looked at kind of the three main ways that you're likely to get paid in this video. So hopefully the examples were helpful and just provided you some insight into how you go about calculating your gross pay. If you have any questions, please be sure to ask. I am always happy to help answer any questions that you might have. With that, I'm going to wish you all a great day. Thank you for watching the video, and I will see you in the next video.